So tonight is the night. Crisis on Infinite Earths finally begins with Supergirl. And I really want to do a video, just kind of a pre-discussion, just talking about everything Crisis. Talking about what I want to happen, what I hope will happen, just what I'm expecting, all this sort of stuff. And just talk about it, because I really can't get this off my mind at the moment. It's been a long wait. We've been waiting for this for over a year, but some of us have known Crisis has been going for a lot longer, you know, with Flash. Teasing it since day one of the show, so in some ways it's been like 5.5 years we've been waiting. But yeah, so tonight's episode, Supergirl's one, we kind of know a decent bit about what is going to happen just from the trailers and the teasers and all of that. We kind of know that a lot of this episode is going to take place on Supergirl's Earth, on Earth 38, and it's going to involve, we kind of know the players who are going to be involved in this episode. It's mainly going to be Oliver, Mia, Barry, Clark from Earth 38, Lois, Iris. Actually, we haven't really seen Iris in any of the pictures, so she might not be involved in this episode too much. But Lois is. Then we have Lila, or Harbinger. We've got Ray. We've got Sarah. And we've got the Monitor, obviously. There's probably a bunch more. Oh, and Alex and John and Brainy and all that. The Supergirl cast. But there's probably a bunch more that they haven't really shown off in the pictures and whatnot. Not yet, but we do know that this episode's probably not going to be the one that brings in a lot of the cameo appearances. Like Kevin Conroy, Tom Welling, Black Lightning, even 90s Flash. I'm not expecting them to show up for a while. I think a decent amount of those are going to show up in the Batwoman episode, which will be part 2. And then we know Black Lightning will be showing up in part 3, which is the Flash episode. But yeah, this is going to be insane. I do believe they are going to destroy Earth 38. I'm pretty sure that we're going to have this episode end with a big cliffhanger that Earth 38 is gone. Especially since in the trailer that Mark Guggenheim's editors made, the one that, not the official CW one, the one that he had to go out of his way to make himself, in that it does show Earth 38 and show the signature lost kind of thing from it, which does give the impression that yes, Earth 38 is going down. Now that could just be a red herring. That couldn't actually mean Earth 38 is gone. But we have seen a lot of stuff that comes from episode 2 and episode 3 that does imply that they're not on Kara's Earth anymore, that they've basically moved to different places. It seems like by part 3 they're kind of just going to be on the Wave Rider most of the time, using that as kind of their base of operations. The thing is, though, I don't know how they're going to make this work. Like, it's going to be crazy weird if from once this crossover's over, from Supergirl, for the next half of Supergirl onwards, we have her on Earth 1. That's going to change everything. It's going to change... It's going to have to change everything. If they just kind of keep going with the idea that, everything's more or less the same, just Barry and Kara on the same Earth now, it's going to be a little bit too jarring. Like, their entire histories should be changing. Like, this is an Earth now where Supergirl and Superman have existed. They can't just kind of brush that off as something that's always been there. They kind of need to delve into that in some sort of way. And it makes it even more difficult because, see, it's not too hard with Flash, because Flash wrapped up their storyline already, and Bloodwork was wrapped up in the first half of the season. The Leviathan arc for Supergirl hasn't been wrapped up at all. The Lena Luthor arc hasn't been wrapped up at all. Supergirl hasn't tried to wrap up any of their first half of the season arcs at all yet. So it's going to be really, really, really difficult for them to go straight into these characters existing on a new Earth, but they also have the bunch of story arcs from their last half of the season to deal with. That's why I'm a little bit skeptical on if they are going to have the crossover end with them all existing on the same Earth. I think Earth 38 is going to be destroyed, but I think something's going to happen throughout the crossover that's going to mean that there might be a couple Earths left instead of just one Earth. And maybe Supergirl and Superman are pushed onto that Earth so that they're not always conflicting with the other characters and whatnot. Because that's one reason why Supergirl has kind of worked as well as it has, I believe, is because she hasn't been, there on Earth 1 the whole time. Whenever Barry or Oliver are having a problem, they can't just call Supergirl or Superman. I personally do want them to all exist on the same Earth, just like the original comic. But I just don't know in terms of shows and logistics how that's going to work, especially for the Superman and Lois show. That's going to be a little bit difficult to have them all on Earth 1. It's going to make the Earth feel very crowded, which I want that. I want this to feel like there's a real Justice League in the Earth. But yeah, besides that, speaking of the Justice League, I do believe that we're going to get some kind of Justice League at the end of this crossover. In the most recent trailer, the extended trailer, we do have the tagline where it says "Join the League." Now, they didn't say Justice League. That bit does have me a little bit skeptical on this. I do think that we're going to have some version of a team at the end of it. There's going to be some, especially since they've been alerting to the one. There's the picture they released from part 1 with all the characters looking up at the camera. That's straight out of a JLA comic cover. You know, they're teasing this in a huge way. And they've already teased this back in Invasion with the Hall of Justice. The end of that crossover had all the heroes standing together in front of the press conferences and all that. That was a huge tease towards the Justice League, and they never went anywhere. But I feel like this is the first time they're going to really delve into that whole team dynamic. Now, the question is, will they call it the Justice League? The fact that they haven't called it the Justice League in the trailer, and the fact that DC is still very, very, very hesitant on what can and can be done on TV. They've loosened up a lot with Superman. They've loosened up a decent bit with Batman. Like, 3 years ago, we would have never seen a Bruce Wayne or even a Batwoman on television. And now we had Gotham, but we would never see an adult Bruce Wayne, and we would never see, like, you know, a Bath character like Batwoman or something like that on television. But they've definitely loosened up in the fact that we're now getting Batwoman, we're now getting Bruce Wayne, we're getting Batman costumes in the Arrowverse, and we even got Bruce Wayne dressed up as Batman in the end of Gotham. You know, that was very much like the end of Smallville, where they loosened up just enough for them to be able to see Superman at the end, even if he wasn't fully in costume. But you know, they've loosened up so much, but they're still a little bit hesitant. And I feel like, definitely in the movies, they still have a plan for the Justice League. Like, it might not be a big plan, and it's probably years and years and years away, but I'm just curious as to, will they call them the Justice League? It'll be something League, that's for sure. You know, they said join the League in the trailer, so it's going to be something League. It could be the Legends League, it could be the Hero League. You know, we've already had a ton of references in Arrow already about a League of Heroes that members of the League of Assassins and Thea are kind of coming together to create. It could be something like that. Could be, they could just call it the Hero League or the League of Heroes. I don't know. I feel like it needs to have justice in it, like the Heroes of Justice or something like that. But then again, it doesn't have the League in it. You know, if DC could just let them call it the Justice League, this would be so much easier. People aren't going to get confused about a Justice League on movies and a Justice League on TV. You know, if they can get True Christ and Over the Earths with multiple different TV shows that were prior unconnected to this universe, all coming together in this, they're going to be able to, you know, figure out that there's two different Justice Leaguers, one in the movies, one in the... Besides, this is what this crossover is about, multiple realities. It's perfectly understandable to be like, okay, yeah, there's a Justice League in a different universe, but there's also a Justice League here. They're not in the same reality, okay? Don't get confused about it. I don't know why DC keeps thinking that their fans are stupid, that they're not going to be able to differentiate between the characters. On top of that, it's not just this whole stupidity thing, it's also the fact that that from a money mindset or a business mindset, they're probably thinking that, oh, if people can see Batman or see Superman or see the Justice League on TV, why would they pay to go see them in the movies? And that is a little bit more understandable of a mindset, but I still think they've got everything in this universe now. The only thing they're really not being allowed to use is proper Batman and a Justice League. So come on, DC, just let it happen. In terms of Tom Welling showing up as Smallville Superman, I really, 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 really want him to have somewhat of a substantial role. But everything we've heard about or seen so far has pointed to the contrary. We've heard from Tom Welling himself and a couple other people that he's only filmed one scene. All the pictures we've seen, the little snippets in the trailers we've seen, all are from that outside shot of the Kent farm. We haven't seen anything else with him in it, which kind of makes me worried that yes, he only is in that scene. But Greg Berlanti also said there's a scene with all three Supermen in it. Now this is possible that he wasn't referring to Tom Welling as a Superman. He's referring to a different Superman that will show up. We already know that there is going to be some other Superman in this crossover. We saw it on the little TV screen where it's like Lex Luthor kills Man of Steel. And that Superman actually isn't Tyler Hoechlin. Well, it might be Tyler Hoechlin. It doesn't look like Tyler Hoechlin though. There's a ton of different theories on who that could be. One of the prevailing ones, and one I agree with, is the Superboy actor from the 1980s and 1990s TV show. I think that that's very possible. But I'm getting off track with that. But yeah, I feel like maybe Tom Welling is only here for one scene, but there have been a couple little rumors and leaks that he filmed a lot more than that, none of which have a lot of gravitas to them. So I'm not gonna really talk about that too much because we don't really have a lot to go on. It's kind of just he said, she said. But Greg Berlanti, he oversees all these shows. He oversees like 14, 15 shows now. So if anybody's gonna know, he's gonna know. And the fact that he said there is a scene with 3 Supermen in it gives me a little bit of hope. Get it? Hope. Yes. But and I don't know. There might be another Superman, and that could be who he's referring to. It could be Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, it could be Brandon Routh's Superman, and it could be another Superman we have yet to see. We also know that there's going to be 6 cameos in the first 3 episodes that have been kept top secret. Now, whether these are characters from the Arrowverse who are coming back, or these are cameos from other TV shows that, like a Tom Welling or a Kevin Conroy or an Ashley Scott, then I like to believe that he's talking about a cameo like that. He's talking about a cameo from a TV show or a movie that was previously unconnected to the Arrowverse, and we were going to be like, oh my god, look who they got back. Because I feel like if it's an Arrowverse character coming back, I like to believe that he isn't grouping them together, because seeing a character from the Arrowverse come back isn't near as big as seeing a character from a TV show that's ended coming back, if you catch my meaning. So I like to believe that he's not grouping them together, and that when he says the 6 cameos that have been kept secret, he's not talking about like like Firestorm coming back or the Ray is coming back or something like that. Speaking of the Ray, he's probably coming back for this crossover. They're releasing a Crisis on Infinite Earths comic like to tie into this to the episodes. And this comic is supposed to happen. I can't remember where it happens between episode 1 and episode 2, or it happens between episode 2 and episode 3. But 3 characters who we've seen in that who are probably not in the crossover is Felicity Smoke, Wally West or Kid Flash, and Ray Terrell or the Ray. He was from Earth X. He was the guy from Earth 1 who then left to go to Earth X, and he joined up with the Freedom Fighters back in Crisis on Earth X. But I believe he actually is going to show up in the crossover, because somebody on Twitter posted a while back. Sorry if I can't find the tweet to put over this. It was like weeks ago. But somebody asked, could Mark Guggenheim confirm if any of these are going to be in the crossover? And he listed the Ray, the Hawks, or Vixen. And he said one of those 3 will be appearing in the crossover. The fact that Ray is apparently very prevalent in this tie-in comic makes me believe that he is going to show up in the crossover itself, which I'm a little disappointed that they're only taking one of those 3. I'm guessing they're not counting Charlie as being Vixen, because she's not really. I would have liked to see one of the 2 Vixens in this crossover. I also would like to see the Hawks back. I feel like with better writing, the Hawks could be great characters. Hawkgirl, Hawkman, they're amazing characters. Hawkman and Green Arrow have such a cool rivalry that we just touched the surface of in that episode. If you want to see some great Hawkman and Green Arrow rivalry, you should watch the Smallville episode Absolute Justice, where they first meet, and it's basically just the 2 of them constantly at each other. And I wanted something like that, but we never really got that. Even in Heroes Join Forces, the crossover from 4 years ago, I believe, the one set Legends of Tomorrow, even there we barely got to see that rivalry. They talked like maybe 3-4 times the entire crossover, and it was kind of more so just, believe what I'm telling you and whatnot. We didn't really get to see much of a rivalry per se, so I'm a little bit disappointed we probably won't see the Hawks back, but I get it. A lot of people don't associate good Arrowverse quality when they think of the Hawks due to Legends of Tomorrow Season 1, but at the same time, if they brought back Vandal Savage for last season, they could totally bring back the Hawks, and no one's going to really mind too much. Especially in a crossover like this, where people have got so many other characters to latch onto, no one's going to be like, oh, I'm not watching this crossover because the Hawks are in it. Speaking of that, it could just be that they couldn't get the actors back for the 2 characters. So yeah, I do believe it's the right one. Then again, there's also the possibility that the reason why the Ray is so prevalent in the tie-in comic is because they couldn't actually get the actor back. So they're putting him in the tie-in comic because they want to tell a story about him, but they can't put it in the crossover. And if that's the case, we might actually see one of the Vixens, or we might even see the Hawks, which will be interesting enough. The reason why I think the Ray is the most likely is considering he is off on a different Earth. If this crossover does end with all the Earths joining together and making one Earth, it makes sense that he would be there, because he's the one character that we still know of from a different Earth. Well, we know Snart as well. Citizen Cold, I believe, was Snart from Earth X. We know he's out there as well. But which actually I hope we can't see him as well. But yeah, the Ray is definitely the biggest character from Earth X that we know of, so I feel like if we are seeing Earth X, or if we're seeing a bunch of different Earths, seeing the Ray would be a good jump on point to Earth X. It's also possible that they could start off this crossover with Earth X actually being destroyed, because in the comics, when the comics start, one of the first Earths we see get destroyed is Earth 3, which is the home of the crime syndicate of America. So we see Owlman, we see Superwoman, we see Ultraman, we see Power Ring, we see all them die, and Pariah's there kind of watching that. It makes sense if they start Earth X the same way, because Earth X is essentially... Earth X is its own thing in the comics, but considering we haven't seen another Earth where all the heroes are evil, like we don't have the big heroes that are evil, I feel like it makes sense to start off with Earth X if we see a bunch of heroes, like an evil version of Superman, maybe on Earth X. We start off the crossover with him and the Ray fighting, and then Earth X gets destroyed. That'd be cool. But also on top of that, I feel like if the Ray was going to be a big part of these first 3 episodes, we probably would have seen something about him already. He doesn't seem like a character that Guggenheim will be trying to keep secret too much, because he's not a... Like, as cool as the Ray is, he's not a character a lot of people are going like, oh my god, he's coming back. We didn't see him enough to get that, to latch onto him that much. In terms of Black Lightning. So Black Lightning is going to be a very interesting part of this, especially since we now know that the mid-season final of Black Lightning is actually going to tie into Crisis in a pretty big way. I was very much expecting that with Crisis. With Black Lightning to show, maybe at the very end of the Black Lightning episode, they would have Lila show up and be like, Black Lightning, we need you, and then he'd go with her. I was not expecting that they'd actually have an entire episode of Black Lightning be linking into Crisis in a way that... It feels like a comic book. It feels like how, you know, in the main Justice League title, we have this big event going down, and then that event is so big that in the Black Lightning title, which isn't near as big as the Justice League title, they're having a little tie-in. You know, it's not like we're seeing the Justice League showing up in Black Lightning, but we're seeing the effects of what is happening in Justice League happening in Black Lightning, and it is so cool to me. I'd love to see more stuff like this. I know that Arrow and Flash used to do this really well, where something would happen in an episode of Arrow, and we'd very briefly see the effects of that in a Flash episode. Like, at the beginning of Season 4 of Arrow, when Oliver becomes the Green Arrow, and he makes that speech about how he is now the Green Arrow, the very next episode of The Flash, we saw Cisco and Caitlin, I believe, watching that Green Arrow press conference where he says, I am the Green Arrow, and then they turn it off very quickly when Barry comes in, or when Iris comes in, or something like that. That was so cool, and they haven't really done an awful lot like that recently, but they're just cool little tie-ins that make this world feel connected in a way that's special. But yeah, with Black Lightning, apparently Jennifer is going to be connecting to different versions of herself. I saw somebody make a reference that, somebody say that it might be like Cisco's powers, where instead of her being able to jump across to different Earths, Jennifer kind of like can connect to different versions of herself across the multiverse, which would be pretty interesting. But yeah, and we also see the red skies on Black Lightning's Earth, and we also see Gambi in the promo, basically like multiple Earths. So it's gonna be it's actually really cool that they're doing all this, and I'm pretty impressed as well, because I know the showrunner Salim, I think his name is. I know that he has a pretty, not hatred, but he just doesn't really like the Arrowverse that much, or he doesn't like the thoughts of connected universes. And one of his things when he first started making Black Lightning was that he'll do it as long as there isn't connecting universes, as long as Black Lightning isn't expected to show up in the crossover every year. So it's cool that he's kind of agreed to be like, alright, look, this Crisis is so big that yeah, you can have our character, you can have our show for this for however long you need it, and which is very cool. I'm actually not expecting like Jennifer or Anissa or Gambi or Lynn to show up in Crisis on Infinite Earths itself. I'm expecting... See, it'd be cool if they did. I know that they said that Black Lightning also shows up in the final episode of the crossover, so it'd be cool if like at the very end we see everyone across the multiverse. Like we see all the characters from Black Lightning, we see the Ray, we see Tom Welling again, maybe we see everyone just in little brief kind of bits to kind of remind us all these characters are right there. Maybe we even, one of the last scenes, if we do end up on the same Earth, they could do like a last scene where we see Black Lightning in his home, or we see Black Lightning's home with Jennifer and Anissa and all that, and they're on the same Earth now as everybody else. That'd be really interesting. A cool way to end it, I think. But yeah, this is just kind of a pre-discussion video I want to do, talking about everything in Crisis, talking about everything I want to see, everything I hope we see. I just wanted to really talk about this because I can't get this off my mind. I am hoping to be able to get reviews or videos out for every single part of the crossover. I think I'll definitely be able to get a part out for tonight's episode. So I think I'll 100% be able to get an episode out or a video out for part 1. Part 2 and part 3 I'm a little bit unsure about because I have college. I don't have college tomorrow, which is why I can stay up tonight to watch the episode, and I can then do a video on tomorrow. But I've got college Tuesday and Wednesday, which is probably going to make it difficult to stay up for the episodes, because they're like 2 a.m. here in Ireland is when the episodes come out. So yeah. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, share, subscribe, and all of that, and I hope you have an awesome day.